What is consciousness? What is this quiet and continuous sense of being someone, moving through a world that feels vivid from the inside? Why does a physical organ made of cells and electricity give rise to something as soft as emotion and as vast as thought? Why do we feel like a unified self rather than a scattered collection of processes? These questions rise like ancient echoes, as if they have followed humanity from the moment a distant ancestor first noticed the presence of an inner world. Imagine that moment. A human on an open plain tens of thousands of years ago. The wind moving over dry grass. The sun lowering towards the horizon. And suddenly, within that mind, something turns inward. A flicker of awareness looking back at itself. A moment both ordinary and cosmic. The first spark of introspection. The first recognition that a world exists not only outside but within. This mystery has never left us. It lives in every moment you pause to notice your breath, in every quiet awareness of your own thoughts, in every memory that rises unbidden, in every glimpse of the strange fact that you experience a life from the inside as a point of view that feels singular and alive. Understanding consciousness does not only satisfy curiosity, it offers grounding in a world full of distraction. It brings clarity to the emotional storms of daily life. It reminds you that presence is a skill, that the self is deeper than any passing mood, and that awareness itself can become a refuge. As you settle into this exploration, you may gently allow your shoulders to soften, your breath to lengthen, and your attention to rest in the simple experience of listening. This journey will move from early humans to modern neuroscience, from ancient philosophy to present-day psychology, from the hidden layers of the subconscious to the luminous mystery of awareness itself. You will travel through the architecture of the brain, the landscape of dreams, the structure of memory, and the evolving story that each of us calls a self. For now, breathe once more, softly. Notice the quiet behind your thoughts, the calm beneath the surface. Let us begin. The first spark of awareness. There was a time when the human mind existed without words, before stories, before symbols, before the ability to reflect with deliberate clarity. Early humans lived inside sensation and reaction, guided by instinct and pattern. But somewhere along the timeline of evolution, a new capacity emerged, a slow unfurling of inner space. Picture an early ancestor crouched near a dim fire, the crackle of burning wood, the scent of smoke, the shimmer of shadows moving across stone. In that uncertain light, the first threads of introspection began to weave themselves together. The mind turned inward, not only reacting, but observing its own reactions. A spark that would change the trajectory of our species. This spark did not appear all at once. It grew gradually, shaped by necessity. Consciousness offered advantages. It allowed the mind to simulate the future and replay the past, to understand the intentions of others, to form alliances, remember dangers, build tools, and imagine possibilities that had never existed. Awareness evolved as a survival mechanism, but once awakened, it became something more. It became a mirror through which the universe could see itself. A striking transformation began to take place. Early humans started to notice patterns, not only in nature, but in thought. They began to paint animals on cave walls, to bury their dead with care, to craft stories around firelight. These acts were outward signs of an inner revolution, Consciousness had shifted from simple perception to reflection. The mind had become a storyteller. As you listen, you can allow your breath to move gently. Imagine that slow evolution unfolding over millennia. Minds becoming deeper, awareness widening, the world becoming not only a place to survive, but a place to understand. With introspection came identity, the first sense of I, the moment when a being recognizes itself as separate, continuous, and alive. This shift gave birth to the beginnings of culture, art, language, and belief. Consciousness became the greatest adaptation in human history, not because it made us stronger or faster, but because it allowed us to imagine what could be. And from this early awakening, the long mystery began. The mystery of how a brain made of cells and chemicals becomes a world of color and memory and emotion. The mystery that still follows us today, inviting us to look inward and ask, what is this thing I call myself? Before we move deeper, breathe softly again. Notice the field of awareness in which your experience unfolds. We continue. The hard problem. Consciousness is the single experience you are always immersed in, yet it remains the hardest phenomenon to explain. This is the paradox at the heart of the hard problem. The brain is a physical structure made of cells, chemicals, and electrical activity. It follows laws of biology and physics. Yet from this physical structure arises something qualitatively different: the softness of emotion, the warmth of memory, the vividness of color, the feeling of being you. This difference between physical processes and subjective experience is the core of the hard problem. How does matter produce a mind? How does the firing of neurons create the taste of sweetness or the sound of a familiar voice? How does activity in the visual cortex become the sky's blue or the glow of sunset? We know a great deal about how the brain processes information, but we do not yet know why that information becomes conscious experience. The difference between intelligence and consciousness is essential here. A machine can calculate, an organism can react, a brain can perform complex operations. But consciousness is not just about processing information. It is about the felt quality of experience, the sense that there is something it is like to be aware. Intelligence can exist without experience. Consciousness brings experience into being. Across history, countless philosophers have grappled with this mystery. Some believed consciousness was an immaterial soul. Others argued it was an illusion created by the brain. Some proposed that awareness might be a fundamental property of the universe, woven into the fabric of reality. None of these perspectives have fully resolved the puzzle, yet each one highlights the depth of the question. You can take a slow breath here, letting your attention rest on the simple fact of being aware. Notice that awareness is effortless. It does not feel constructed or mechanical. It is simply present, like an open space in which thoughts and sensations appear. This presence is the most familiar part of your life, yet no scientific theory fully explains it. The hard problem is not a sign of failure, but an invitation. It reminds us that consciousness may not yield to explanation as easily as other scientific phenomena. It suggests that awareness might require a new kind of understanding, perhaps a blend of neuroscience, philosophy, physics, and contemplative insight, or even an entirely new way of thinking. What makes the mystery more intriguing is that consciousness is both universal and deeply personal. Every human lives inside their own private world of sensations, emotions, and stories. Yet we also share a common experience, a common architecture of mind. In this way, consciousness connects us, even as it separates us. It is the bridge between the inner and the outer, the private and the shared. As you listen, you might gently notice the space of your own mind, images arising, thoughts coming and going, sensations shifting, all of it illuminated by the quiet light of awareness. That awareness is the very thing we are trying to understand, the phenomenon that remains unexplained, even as it feels profoundly intimate. The hard problem stands as a reminder of humility in the face of complexity. It tells us that consciousness may be the most extraordinary feature of the universe, not because it is rare, but because it is so deeply interwoven with everything we value: love, memory, imagination, identity, meaning. All of these arise within consciousness. Without it, the world would exist, but there would be no one to experience it. And so we continue, guided by curiosity. We turn toward the brain, not to solve the mystery immediately, but to explore the mechanisms that shape our inner world. The next step in our journey leads us into the intricate networks of the brain, where patterns of activity weave together to create the tapestry of awareness. Let your breath soften for a moment as we move toward that exploration. The brain and consciousness. The brain is often described as the most complex structure in the known universe. Billions of neurons, each one forming thousands of connections, create an immense living network. Within this network, electrical impulses travel, chemicals flow across synapses, and patterns of activity rise and fall in constant rhythm. From these patterns emerges the experience you call consciousness. Yet the mechanism behind this emergence remains a profound and unresolved puzzle. To understand consciousness through the lens of neuroscience, it helps to picture the brain not as a static object, but as a dynamic landscape. Activity moves through it like weather patterns across a sky. Regions communicate, synchronize, and integrate information. No single area alone creates consciousness. It is the collaboration among regions, the coordinated flow of information that generates the experience of being aware. One influential idea is the global workspace theory. It suggests that consciousness arises when information is broadcast across a wide network in the brain, allowing different regions to share their specialized content. In this view, unconscious processes work locally and quietly, while conscious experience occurs when something becomes globally available. When a sensation, thought, or memory reaches this global stage, it becomes part of what you can reflect on, report, or act upon deliberately. Another idea is the integrated information theory. It proposes that consciousness corresponds to the degree of integration within a system. In other words, the more a system can unify information into a single experience, the more conscious it becomes. This perspective emphasizes that consciousness is not just about complexity, but about the richness of connection. The brain is uniquely structured to integrate information across vast distances, allowing it to create a unified field of awareness. You can pause for a slow breath here. As you do, consider the incredible coordination required for something as simple as noticing your breath. Sensory information travels from the body, meets internal models in the brain, and becomes available to the networks responsible for attention and awareness. This process happens effortlessly, yet it reflects millions of years of evolution. The brain also functions as a prediction machine. It constantly anticipates what will happen next, filling in gaps and creating models of the world. This predictive architecture shapes conscious experience more than we often realize. You do not simply perceive the world. You perceive your brain's best guess about the world, refined moment by incoming sensory data. This interplay between prediction and sensation creates a fluid, constructed reality that feels stable and immediate from the inside. Consciousness depends not only on integration, but also on coherence. When different parts of the brain fall out of sync, awareness can fragment or fade. This happens in sleep, anesthesia, seizures, and certain neurological conditions. These shifts show that consciousness is deeply tied to the stability of communication across brain networks. Awareness is not just the presence of activity, it is the organization of activity into meaningful patterns. Even though we understand much about the brain's mechanics, there is still no definitive explanation for why any of these processes are accompanied by experience. Why is the firing of neurons not silent? Why is it illuminated from within? Neuroscience can describe the structure, but the glow of subjectivity remains elusive. And yet, this does not diminish the beauty of what the brain accomplishes. Within its living circuitry, the past is stored, the present is interpreted, and the future is imagined. It is the seat of language, emotion, memory, creativity, perception, and identity. Even if we cannot fully explain why consciousness arises, we can marvel at how it unfolds. As you listen, you might let your attention gently drift toward the simple fact that every sound, every sensation, every thought is shaped by the brain's intricate dance. You do not need to understand the mechanics for the experience to feel profound. Awareness simply appears, moment by moment, carried by processes far below the surface of your perception. The journey now leads us to the self, the model the brain constructs to navigate the world. The sense of being someone, continuous through time, living inside a personal story. Before moving on, allow your breath to deepen softly. Let the mind settle. We turn now to the architecture of identity, to the self that consciousness builds. The self model. The feeling of being a self is so familiar that it often goes unquestioned. You wake each day with a sense of continuity, a feeling that the person who opened their eyes this morning is the same one who fell asleep last night, the same one who remembers childhood moments, the same one imagining tomorrow. This sense of identity feels solid and enduring. Yet neuroscience reveals that the self is not a single thing, but a model, constantly constructed and reconstructed by the brain. The self model is an adaptive creation. It helps you navigate the world by giving you a center of gravity, a stable point from which to interpret experience. Without a sense of self, actions would lose coherence, memories would drift without anchor, and decisions would become scattered. The brain evolved to create this internal narrative so that life could be lived with direction and meaning. At the deepest level, the self is generated through layers of perception and prediction. The brain maintains maps of the body, tracks emotional states, links memories, and anticipates outcomes. These processes merge into a unified point of view that feels like an I. This eye is not a single region. It is the result of interactions across many regions, forming a dynamic portrait of who you believe yourself to be. There is the experiential self, the immediate presence that exists in each moment. It has no story, no past, no future. It is simply awareness experiencing what unfolds right now. Then there is the narrative self, the storyteller that weaves your life into a coherent sequence. This narrative self connects events, interprets emotions, and builds a biography from thousands of small threads. Most of the time, we live inside the narrative self, believing its story to be the whole truth. Take a slow breath here and feel how the experiential self appears naturally when you pause. It does not require any thought. It is simply the awareness of being. This awareness is not separate from the brain's activity, but emerges from it, like a light illuminating the present moment. The self-model is flexible. It changes with development, culture, trauma, imagination, and aging. It shifts depending on your surroundings and the people you interact with. In moments of calm or meditation, the sense of self may soften. In moments of stress or fear, it may become rigid. In flow states, it may temporarily disappear altogether. These fluctuations reveal that the self is not a fixed entity, but a process. What makes this even more interesting is that the brain uses the self-model to predict how you will act, how others will respond, and how situations will unfold. Identity becomes not only a reflection of who you have been, but a guide for who you expect to become. In this way, the self is both memory and anticipation, both anchor and compass. Yet there is an illusion built into this model. The brain creates a sense of singularity, as if there is one centralized observer inside the mind. But no such observer exists. There is no single place where experiences converge. Instead, the brain integrates information across many networks, creating the appearance of a unified self. The unity is real in experience, but constructed in mechanism. This does not make the self unreal. It makes it crafted, a masterpiece of biological engineering, a useful fiction that allows an organism to function with coherence and purpose. When understood this way, the self becomes both precious and malleable. You can shape it, you can question it, you can soften its edges, and in doing so, a deeper level of awareness becomes accessible. You might take a moment now to notice the space in which your thoughts and sensations appear. This space does not belong to the narrative self. It is not defined by personal history or future plans. It is simply the open field of consciousness, present in every moment, often unnoticed, because the narrative self speaks so loudly. As we move forward, we explore how this self interacts with one of the most powerful forces shaping consciousness: attention, the mechanism through which awareness selects, highlights, and constructs the reality you experience. Before entering that landscape, allow your breath to settle gently. Feel the quiet around the story of who you are. The next part of our journey begins with the spotlight of the mind: attention and awareness. Attention is the sculptor of consciousness. It selects what becomes vivid and what fades into the background. It shapes experience by highlighting certain details, sensations, and thoughts, while allowing others to pass unnoticed. Even though awareness is broad and continuous, attention narrows it into a focused beam, giving clarity to one moment at a time. Imagine entering a quiet room. Countless sensations reach you at once. The faint hum of air, the subtle pressure of your feet on the floor, the texture of clothing against your skin, the play of light across the walls. All of this information is present, yet only a small portion enters conscious experience. Attention decides what rises to the surface. This selective process is not passive. It is active, dynamic, and deeply tied to survival. Early humans needed to detect movement in tall grass, notice slight changes in sound, and track subtle shifts in emotion within their group. Attention became a tool for filtering the world, focusing on what mattered most, moment by moment. Over time, it evolved into a powerful mechanism for shaping the internal landscape of consciousness. Attention works by amplifying neural signals. When you focus on something, brain regions responsible for processing that information synchronize with networks involved in awareness and decision-making. This synchronization creates coherence, allowing the selected content to enter conscious experience. Everything else is processed without reaching the global arena of awareness. A helpful metaphor is the spotlight. Awareness is the stage, filled with potential actors waiting in the wings. Attention is the beam of light that illuminates one actor at a time, bringing it into the center of consciousness. But the stage itself is never empty. Countless processes occur in the background, shaping the scene even when they remain unseen. You can take a soft breath here. Notice how the moment you direct awareness toward your breath, the sensation becomes more defined. This simple act demonstrates how attention shapes experience. Without effort, the breath becomes clearer, the sensation more vivid, the moment more present. Attention is not only about focus, it is also about meaning. The brain constantly evaluates what is important based on emotion, memory, and context. If something carries emotional weight, attention is drawn toward it. If something aligns with your goals or fears, it becomes more salient. In this way, attention weaves your personal history into each moment, creating a deeply subjective reality. Modern neuroscience reveals that attention and awareness are not the same. Awareness is the broad field in which experience appears. Attention is the mechanism that selects content within that field. You can be aware of a room while focusing your attention on a single sound. You can be aware of your body while focusing on a thought. This distinction helps explain why you can shift attention deliberately or become captured by unexpected stimuli. The ability to control attention is a foundation of emotional regulation, learning, creativity, and mental well-being. When attention is steady, experience feels grounded. When it becomes scattered, the mind can feel restless or overwhelmed. The practice of gently returning attention to the present, even for a moment, strengthens the capacity for clarity and calm. Attention can also reveal how constructed consciousness truly is. When you shift focus from the outer world to the inner one, the nature of experience changes. When you attend to bodily sensations, emotions become more anchored. When you attend to thoughts, you see how quickly they arise and dissolve. When you rest attention on awareness itself, you glimpse a deeper stillness beneath the mind's activity. Take another gentle breath. Notice that even the simple act of listening is shaped by attention. The words meet your awareness, carried by the focus you bring to them. This interplay between attention and awareness defines the texture of conscious life. From here, we turn to the body, the vessel through which consciousness feels the world. The body does not merely support awareness, it shapes it, it grounds it, it gives it texture and depth. Before we enter that landscape, you may let your shoulders soften and feel the subtle weight of your body as presence begins to deepen. The body and the self. To understand consciousness fully, we must return to the body, because awareness is not suspended above physical form. It is intertwined with it. The body is the ground on which the self is built. Every heartbeat, every breath, every internal sensation contributes to the feeling of being someone. Consciousness is not only a mental phenomenon, it is embodied. The brain maintains a continuous map of the body. It tracks temperature, pressure, balance, hunger, heartbeat, and countless silent rhythms that you rarely notice directly. These signals form a steady background hum, weaving an intimate connection between mind and body. This internal sense is called interoception, and it shapes emotions, intuition, and the feeling of presence. Interoception gives rise to the lived experience of being in a body. You feel tired or energized, comfortable or uneasy, calm or unsettled. These feelings are not abstract. They come from the body's signals, translated by the brain into emotion and mood. Even the sense of self is influenced by this internal flow. If the body feels grounded, the self feels stable. If the body is tense, the self can feel scattered or threatened. Take a slow breath now and feel how the body subtly responds. The chest expands, the shoulders ease. The body participates in awareness without effort. The breath becomes an anchor, guiding attention inward. This simple act reveals the deep partnership between physical sensation and consciousness. The brain uses these internal signals to construct the sense of ownership. When you move your hand, you feel that you are the one moving it. When you feel your heartbeat, it feels like yours. This feeling of ownership is not a given. It is created moment by moment. When the brain's predictions about the body match sensory feedback, the sense of ownership is strong. When the predictions falter, the sense can weaken or distort. This connection becomes clear in unusual neurological conditions. Some individuals lose the feeling that a limb belongs to them. Others may feel that their body extends beyond its physical boundaries. These experiences reveal that body ownership is not fixed. It is a dynamic construction, a collaboration between sensation and expectation. The body also shapes how you perceive the world. Emotions are not separate from physical states. A racing heart can make a situation feel urgent. A relaxed posture can make the same situation feel safe. Hormones, muscle tension, and breath patterns influence how you interpret events. Consciousness is filtered through these bodily states, coloring every experience with subtle or dramatic effect. This embodiment extends into memory and identity. Many memories are anchored in bodily sensations: the warmth of a childhood home, the smell of a familiar street, the texture of a loved object. These sensations form the emotional fabric of personal history. When the body responds, memory deepens. When memory arises, the body often echoes it. The two are intertwined. Even the sense of space and presence depends on the body. You feel located somewhere because the brain integrates sensory information from vision, hearing, and internal signals to determine where you are in the world. This creates the feeling of being a center of experience, situated within physical boundaries. Without this mapping, the sense of presence becomes diffuse or fragmented. Some contemplative traditions emphasize awareness of the body to cultivate clarity. When attention returns to physical sensations, the mind becomes less scattered. Awareness deepens. The narrative self softens, and the experiential self becomes more vivid. This is why simple practices like noticing the breath or sensing the weight of the body can shift the entire quality of consciousness. Take another gentle breath. Feel the rise and fall. Feel the subtle gravity that holds you. This awareness is not separate from thought or emotion. It is their foundation. The body is not a vessel you inhabit. It is an essential part of who you are. From here, we move deeper into the layers below awareness. Beneath the surface of a conscious experience lies a vast realm of hidden processes, shaping thoughts, emotions, and behavior long before they reach the light of awareness. We now enter the subconscious, the silent engine behind the mind. The subconscious mind. Beneath the surface of conscious awareness lies a vast and intricate realm, a landscape that shapes your thoughts, emotions, and actions long before you become aware of them. This realm is the subconscious mind. It is not a separate place, but a collection of processes that operate quietly in the background, guiding you with remarkable precision. Most of what the brain does never enters awareness at all. Consciousness is only the final layer, the thin, bright surface of a much deeper ocean. Consider how many actions you perform without conscious effort. You walk without thinking about every muscle. You speak without planning every word. You recognize faces instantly, solve familiar problems automatically, and sense danger before identifying why. These abilities emerge from subconscious processes, refined through repetition, learning, and experience. The subconscious mind is constantly active. It tracks patterns, evaluates risks, interprets social cues, and organizes memories. It processes information far faster than conscious thought can manage. In many ways, it is the silent architect of your experience. Conscious awareness arrives late, receiving the final product of countless subconscious calculations. Take a gentle breath here. Notice how breathing happens even without your attention. The body knows what to do because subconscious systems guide it. Conscious awareness can observe the breath, but it does not create it. This simple observation hints at a larger truth. Much of what you call your life unfolds beneath the threshold of awareness. Emotions, too, often arise subconsciously. You may feel uneasy without knowing why. You may trust someone instantly or feel cautious in certain environments. The subconscious evaluates signals based on past experiences, shaping intuition and instinct. These emotional responses surface into consciousness only after the brain has already made its assessment. Memory plays a central role in the subconscious, not the deliberate memories you can recall at will, but implicit memory, the kind that shapes habits and preferences. You may not remember learning how to ride a bicycle, yet your body remembers perfectly. You may not recall every experience that shaped your beliefs, yet those beliefs influence judgment and behavior. The subconscious is also where patterns of thought become habits. Repeated ideas form mental grooves that guide future thinking. This is why certain reactions feel automatic. The mind learns, adapts, and reinforces pathways over time. These pathways become the silent background architecture of personality and behavior. Some of the subconscious mind's influence comes from its constant predictive work. The brain uses past experience to anticipate what will happen next. This prediction shapes perception, emotion, and decision-making. You do not simply react to the world, you react to your brain's prediction of the world. Conscious awareness then weaves a narrative, explaining your actions after they have already begun. This interplay between the subconscious and conscious mind becomes especially clear in moments of insight. A solution appears suddenly, as if from nowhere, but the subconscious has been working in the background, assembling information, exploring connections, and finding patterns. When the answer is ready, it rises into awareness like a spark. You might take a moment now to feel the quiet beneath your thoughts. That quiet is not empty. It is active, rich with processes that support every waking moment. Letting attention soften can reveal a sense of depth, as if awareness floats on something vast and unseen. The subconscious also plays a profound role in dreams and altered states, where the boundaries between conscious and hidden processes shift. In sleep, the subconscious reorganizes memories, explores emotional landscapes, and creates scenes that can feel both familiar and surreal. Dreams are windows into the deeper workings of mind. From here, our journey moves into these dreamlike states, into sleep, imagination, and the altered landscapes of consciousness, where logic bends and awareness transforms. Before we continue, you can allow your breath to deepen gently, letting the mind settle as we enter the world of dreams. Dreams and altered states. When the mind enters the world of sleep, consciousness transforms. The tight structure of waking awareness loosens, the boundaries of the self soften, and the brain begins to weave images, memories, and emotions into scenes that feel strangely vivid and surreal. Dreams reveal that consciousness is not a single fixed mode. It shifts, stretches, dissolves, and reforms, showing many shapes and textures you rarely notice during the day. As you fall asleep each night, the brain cycles through stages. In the deeper stages, awareness fades almost completely. Sensation quiets, memory drifts, and the narrative self disappears. But in rapid eye movement sleep, something remarkable happens. The brain becomes active again, almost as active as when you are awake. Visual regions light up, emotional networks come alive. The brain begins to construct worlds. In this state, the rules of waking life loosen. Time becomes fluid. Identity becomes flexible. Landscapes shift without warning. Emotions amplify. Dreams mix fragments of memory with imagination, blending old experiences with new possibilities. They can comfort, disturb, or bewilder. They can solve problems, reveal hidden fears, or express unspoken desires. Yet the dreamer rarely questions the reality of the dream while inside it. This reveals something profound. The mind can generate entire worlds without any input from the senses. Take a slow, easy breath here. Imagine that the mind, even now, carries the capacity to construct endless inner landscapes. These landscapes unfold from the same neural networks that create waking experience. Dreams remind us that consciousness is creative, flexible, and unbound by physical constraints. One of the most intriguing aspects of dreaming is the temporary suspension of the narrative self. You may appear in dreams, but the sense of continuity is weakened. You accept strange transformations without resistance. You may shift roles or move through impossible scenes. This fluidity reveals that the self is a construct normally held together by predictive systems and sensory input. When those systems loosen, the self becomes less rigid. Dreams also play an essential role in memory. They help consolidate information, integrate emotional experiences, and connect distant concepts. The brain replays fragments of the day, reorganizes them, and embeds them into long-term networks. Emotional memories, in particular, are processed during REM sleep. Fear, desire, grief, joy, and longing often appear in dreams as the mind attempts to understand experiences that were too complex or overwhelming in waking life. Altered states induced by meditation, trance, or deep relaxation share something with dreams. The boundaries of self and thought shift, attention widens, and awareness may become more diffuse or more focused depending on the practice. In deep meditation, some people experience a sense of space expanding or a feeling of dissolving into awareness itself. These states do not rely on imagination in the way dreams do, yet they reveal that consciousness is not tied to one rigid mode. It can soften, open, and deepen. Psychedelic states reveal another perspective. Substances like psilocybin, LSD, or mescaline can dramatically alter perception and self-awareness by disrupting predictable patterns of brain activity. Under these conditions, the brain becomes less constrained by habitual pathways. This can lead to vivid imagery, intense emotion, and a temporary dissolution of the self model. People often describe a sense of unity, interconnectedness, or profound insight. These experiences can feel spiritual or philosophical, even when their origins are entirely biological. Such states show that the self is not fixed, but a process. When that process is altered, consciousness transforms. The mind becomes a shifting landscape, capable of expanding or contracting, clarifying or confusing, illuminating or obscuring. Altered states reveal possibilities hidden beneath the surface of ordinary awareness. You might take another soft breath here. Notice how even the act of imagining these states changes the quality of your own awareness. Thoughts slow. The mind opens slightly. Dreams and altered states remind us that consciousness is fluid, capable of moving through many forms. From here, we turn to the deep philosophical questions that have shaped human understanding for millennia. Across cultures and centuries, thinkers have asked what consciousness is, where it comes from, and whether the self is truly real. Before entering this vast landscape of ideas, allow your breath to lengthen gently and feel the mind settle. We now step into the philosophical heart of the mystery, the philosophical mind. For thousands of years, long before neuroscience existed, humans looked inward and asked the same questions we ask today. What is the mind? What is the self? What is the essence of awareness? These questions shaped entire civilizations, spiritual traditions, and schools of thought. Philosophy became humanity's earliest attempt to understand consciousness, not through measurement, but through reflection, observation, and inner exploration. In the West, the roots of this inquiry reach back to ancient Greece. Philosophers like Plato and Aristotle considered the soul the seat of thought and identity. Plato imagined consciousness as a reflection of eternal forms, while Aristotle saw the soul as the organizing principle of the body. These ideas may feel distant now, Yet they represent the first attempts to understand the connection between life, perception, and awareness. Later, thinkers like Descartes famously declared, "I think, therefore I am." This statement placed consciousness at the core of existence. Descartes imagined mind and body as separate substances, one physical, the other mental. This dualistic view shaped centuries of scientific debate. Even today, echoes of dualism remain in the popular belief that the mind floats above the brain. Modern science rejects this separation, but the intuition behind it is powerful because consciousness feels different from physical matter. Other Western philosophers challenged this dualism. Spinoza argued that mind and body were two expressions of the same underlying reality. Hume questioned whether the self existed at all, describing it as a bundle of perceptions without a true center. Kant suggested that the mind actively shapes experience rather than passively receiving it. Each of these views brought new depth to the mystery of consciousness. Take a soft breath. Notice how these questions are not abstract. They touch the core of being. They ask what you are at the deepest level. Eastern traditions offer insight of a different kind. In the Indian philosophical systems, awareness is often considered fundamental. Yogic and Vedantic teachings describe the self as a layer of identity, built upon deeper layers of consciousness. They speak of the witness, the pure awareness behind thoughts and sensations. This perspective suggests that the narrative self is not the final truth, but a surface phenomenon. Buddhist philosophy goes further. It proposes that the self is an illusion, a useful but ultimately empty construct. According to this view, clinging to a fixed identity leads to suffering. Freedom comes from seeing the self as a process, not an entity. This aligns with modern neuroscience, which shows that the self emerges from ongoing interactions among brain systems. The ancient idea of no self mirrors the scientific understanding of the self as dynamic and constructed. Chinese traditions, such as Taoism, take yet another approach. They emphasize harmony, flow, and the natural movement of life. Consciousness is not analyzed as a separate phenomenon. It is understood through the experience of presence, simplicity, and alignment with the world. Instead of dissecting the mind, Taoist thought invites one to relax into awareness and let understanding arise naturally. These diverse philosophical lenses show that consciousness has always been a central mystery. Cultures separated by geography and time arrived at overlapping insights. That awareness is elusive, that the self is constructed, that perception shapes reality, that inner experience holds a depth science alone cannot fully capture. As you listen, notice how these perspectives influence your own sense of self. Philosophy offers more than ideas. It offers ways of experiencing consciousness. It invites you to reflect, to observe the inner world without rushing to conclusions. This openness deepens awareness and softens rigid boundaries of identity. Modern philosophy continues the exploration. Some philosophers argue that consciousness arises entirely from physical processes. Others suggest that subjective experience may be a fundamental aspect of the universe, like space or time. Some explore the idea that consciousness emerges from relationships, not substances, shaped by interaction rather than isolated components. These ideas echo earlier philosophies, showing that the oldest questions remain alive. Take another gentle breath. Feel the mind resting in these questions without needing answers. Philosophy teaches that mystery can be a form of understanding, that the value lies not only in solutions, but in the depth of inquiry itself. From this philosophical landscape, we turn towards the phenomenon that shapes identity more directly than almost any other: the ego, the sense of I that rises at the center of thought, the voice that claims ownership over experience. Before we enter that domain, let your breath steady and the mind settle softly. We now explore the formation and dissolution of the ego. Ego and awareness. The ego is the center of the story you tell about yourself. It is the voice that says, I am the one who thinks. I am the one who feels. I am the one who chooses. It gives shape to identity and creates a sense of continuity. The ego is not a flaw or an obstacle. It is a natural function of the mind, an adaptive tool that evolved to help you navigate a complex world. The ego forms through experience. As infants, we do not begin with a sense of a separate self. Awareness exists, but it has no boundaries. Over time, the brain learns to distinguish the body from the world. Language arrives, and with it, the ability to say I and mine. These words become the building blocks of personal identity. Social interactions reinforce the sense of being someone with preferences, values, and memories. Slowly, the ego takes shape. The ego organizes experience by placing the self at the center. It evaluates events based on how they affect you. It interprets interactions through the lens of identity. It builds narratives about who you are, what you believe, and where your life is headed. This narrative brings stability and meaning. Without it, the world would feel chaotic and disorienting. Yet the ego can also become restrictive. When identity becomes rigid, the mind clings to its stories. It defends its beliefs, fears change, and resists challenge. It interprets disagreements as threats. It seeks validation and avoids vulnerability. These tendencies are not flaws of character. They are natural consequences of a system designed to protect the self. Take a slow breath here, letting the shoulders soften. Notice how simply observing your experience begins to loosen the grip of the ego. Awareness creates space. In that space, the ego no longer needs to defend itself. The ego thrives on attachment. It attaches to roles, achievements, opinions, and memories. It tries to solidify identity in a world that is constantly changing. This creates tension because life does not stay still. Everything evolves. The ego's attempt to freeze a fluid reality creates friction, anxiety, and sometimes suffering. Awareness provides the antidote. When you observe thoughts and emotions without identifying with them, the ego becomes less rigid. A thought becomes simply a thought. An emotion becomes a passing state. The sense of I softens. You remain present, but no longer confined to the narrow boundaries of identity. Many traditions describe experiences where the ego temporarily dissolves. In deep meditation, flow states, or certain altered states, the sense of separate self may fade. When this happens, awareness expands. There is a feeling of openness, connection, or unity. These experiences are not escapes from reality. They reveal aspects of consciousness that the ego normally obscures. The ego is not the enemy of awareness. It is a part of awareness, a tool shaped by evolution. The key is not to eliminate the ego, but to understand it. When you see its patterns clearly, you can use it without becoming dominated by it. You can act with intention rather than habit. You can respond rather than react. You may take another gentle breath. Notice that the awareness which perceives your breath is not limited by the ego. The ego appears within awareness, not the other way around. This realization opens a deeper understanding of the self. From here, we move into a realm where identity and consciousness intertwine even more profoundly. Memory. Memory constructs the story of your life. It links past experiences to the present self. It shapes imagination and guides the future. Before stepping into that landscape, allow your breath to remain soft and feel the quiet expanding within. We now turn to consciousness and memory. Consciousness and memory. Memory is the architecture of the self. It is the invisible framework that holds your life together, linking distant moments into a continuous story. Without memory, consciousness would still exist, but it would be unanchored. Every moment would stand alone, disconnected from the next. The sense of identity, of being someone with a past and a future, arises from the intricate workings of memory. There are many forms of memory, each shaping the self in a different way. Declarative memory holds facts and events that you can recall deliberately. Procedural memory stores skills like walking, speaking, or riding a bicycle. Emotional memory encodes feelings tied to past experiences. Implicit memory shapes habits, preferences, and unconscious responses. These layers work together to create the tapestry of who you believe yourself to be. Take a gentle breath here. Notice how even the act of remembering your breath from moments ago connects one moment to the next. This continuity is the essence of the self. Memory weaves experience into a coherent thread. The brain does not store memories like files in a cabinet. It reconstructs them. Each time you remember something, the brain rebuilds the memory from fragments distributed across many regions. Sensory details, emotional tones, spatial layouts, and personal meaning are woven together anew. This reconstruction shapes how memories change over time. They become softened, sharpened, or reinterpreted through the lens of new experiences. This flexibility allows memory to serve a deeper purpose than simple storage. Memory helps the brain predict the future. It uses past experiences to anticipate outcomes, guide decisions, and shape behavior. Much of this happens beneath awareness. The subconscious mind draws on memory constantly, influencing intuition, mood, and perception. The brain also connects memory to imagination. When you imagine the future, the same neural networks used for memory become active. The mind simulates possible scenarios, explores options, and creates mental models of what could happen. In this way, memory and imagination form a continuum. One reflects the past, the other projects into the future. Together, they create the sense of a timeline that you move along. Memory profoundly shapes identity. Personal memories create the story of your life. They tell you where you came from, what you learned, and who you have been. Emotional memories define your responses, shaping trust, fear, and desire. Even unconscious memories influence personality. The self is inseparable from the memories that support it. You can pause here to notice the memories silently present in this moment. The memory of language allows you to understand these words. The memory of your body lets you sense posture and breath. The memory of your identity gives context to everything you hear. You are living within memory continuously, even when you are not recalling the past. Yet memory is not always reliable. It can distort, it can fade, it can transform events in subtle ways. This imperfection is not a flaw but a feature. It allows the brain to adapt, reinterpret, and grow. Memory changes because you change. The self evolves, and memory evolves with it. In moments of reflection or introspection, the boundary between remembering and experiencing becomes fluid. A memory may arise with vivid images or sensations, almost like a dream. In these moments, consciousness reaches backward in time, blending past and present into a single experience. This fluidity reveals that consciousness is not limited to the immediate moment. It stretches across time, connecting countless moments into one unfolding story. Take another soft breath. Notice how memory subtly shapes your sense of presence. The memories of today, the memories of decades ago, even memories you cannot consciously recall, all contribute to the feeling of being you. From the architecture of memory, we move to the social dimensions of consciousness. Human awareness does not develop in isolation. It grows within relationships, language, culture, and connection. The next part of our journey explores how consciousness expands through others, how empathy and communication shape identity, and how the social world becomes part of the self. The social self. Consciousness does not unfold in isolation. From the moment you enter the world, your awareness is shaped by other minds. The social environment becomes part of the architecture of the self. Every smile, every voice, every gesture influences how the brain develops, how identity forms, and how consciousness expands. The self is not only a personal construction, it is also a shared creation. Human beings evolved in groups. Survival depended on cooperation, communication, and understanding others' intentions. This required minds capable of reading subtle cues, interpreting emotions, and predicting behavior. Over time, the brain developed remarkable tools for social awareness. These tools became deeply embedded in consciousness, shaping perception, thought, and emotion. Take a soft breath here and imagine how early interactions shaped your own sense of self. Long before you had language, your brain was learning the rhythms of connection, tone of voice, facial expressions, the comfort of touch. These early experiences formed the foundation for empathy and social understanding. One of the most profound capacities of the human mind is theory of mind, the ability to recognize that other people have thoughts, feelings, and perspectives of their own. This ability allows you to navigate relationships, resolve conflicts, and build trust. It lets you imagine how someone else might feel or what they might need. It forms the basis of compassion and cooperation. Language amplifies this ability. Words allow minds to share internal worlds. Through language, you express emotions, convey ideas, and construct meaning with others. Conversation becomes a bridge between separate consciousnesses, allowing individuals to build shared understanding. Stories, beliefs, and cultural knowledge are passed down through generations, shaping how people see themselves and the world. Culture, in turn, becomes part of the self. Every society offers ideas about identity, morality, purpose, and meaning. These ideas influence how individuals interpret their experiences. Culture shapes emotion, perception, and self-concept. It tells you what is valued, what is feared, what is admired, and what is discouraged. Even the idea of the self varies across cultures. Some emphasize individuality, others emphasize connection and interdependence. You may take another gentle breath. Notice how your own self-concept has been influenced by the people and culture around you. Family, friends, teachers, communities, and experiences have shaped the story you tell about who you are. Social connections do more than shape identity. They regulate the nervous system. When you feel safe with others, the body relaxes, heart rate slows, breathing deepens. Neurochemical systems release signals of calm and trust. This is why supportive relationships can feel grounding. Consciousness becomes steadier when connection is present. At the same time, social disconnection can generate stress, loneliness, or confusion. The self is deeply sensitive to social feedback. Praise strengthens confidence. Rejection triggers pain circuits in the brain, activating regions associated with physical discomfort. These reactions reveal how intertwined the social world and inner experience truly are. The social self is also shaped by empathy. When you witness someone else's emotions, your brain simulates those emotions internally. This mirroring allows you to understand others from the inside. Empathy bridges the gap between separate selves, allowing consciousness to resonate across minds. It creates a sense of shared humanity, even among strangers. Through these layers of interaction, consciousness becomes relational. You know yourself partly through how others see you. You feel emotions that reflect not only your own experiences, but the experiences of those around you. The self becomes a dynamic exchange between inner experience and the outer world. Take another slow breath. Notice how awareness feels when you imagine someone you care about. Notice how your body responds. These subtle shifts show how deeply social we are, even in solitude. From this ground of connection, we move to an even deeper layer of mystery. Despite all that science and philosophy have uncovered, consciousness still contains elements that defy explanation. There remain questions no theory has yet resolved. Before entering that territory, allow your mind to settle gently. We now step into the mystery that remains. The mystery that remains. Even after centuries of inquiry, after neuroscience has mapped networks and philosophy has traced concepts, a profound mystery still rests at the center of consciousness. It is the simple, undeniable fact of subjective experience. The feeling of being, the presence that illuminates every thought, sensation, and emotion. This presence cannot be touched, measured, or seen directly, yet it is the most intimate aspect of existence. Science explains how the brain processes information. It reveals the circuits involved in vision, memory, emotion, and decision-making. It shows how neurons fire, how networks synchronize, how chemicals shape mood and perception. But even with this knowledge, a question remains. Why does any of it feel like something from the inside? Why is there a world appearing within awareness? Take a gentle breath here and notice the quiet field in which sensations arise. That field is the heart of the mystery. It is where experience unfolds, yet its nature remains elusive. Some believe that solving this mystery will require new scientific tools, new theories, or breakthroughs in physics or information science. They imagine that consciousness might emerge from principles we have not yet discovered, principles as transformative as understanding gravity or electromagnetism. Others believe the mystery cannot be solved through science alone. They argue that consciousness might be a fundamental property of reality, not derived from matter, but woven into the fabric of existence. There is also a possibility that the mystery is not a problem to be solved, but an inherent feature of subjective life. Consciousness may resist full explanation because it is the lens through which every explanation appears. Just as the eye cannot see itself without a mirror, the mind may not fully comprehend the source of its own awareness. Philosophers and scientists have proposed many ideas. Some theories suggest that consciousness arises from complex integration. Others propose that subjective experience depends on specific patterns of information. Some thinkers explore the idea that consciousness emerges from relationships between systems. A few argue that consciousness might exist in some form throughout the universe, expressing itself with increasing complexity in living beings. Despite the diversity of ideas, one truth remains constant. Consciousness is different from everything else we know. It is not an object. It is not a place. It is not a material substance. It is the medium in which every part of life is experienced. This makes it both familiar and enigmatic. You might take another soft breath. Notice how awareness effortlessly holds the breath, the sound, the feeling of the moment. Awareness does not struggle to perceive. It simply allows experience to arise. This effortless quality hints at something fundamental, something closer to the essence of being than any concept or belief. The mystery persists, but it does not diminish the wonder of consciousness. Instead, it deepens it. It invites humility. It reminds us that even with advanced science and vast knowledge, there are aspects of existence that remain beyond our grasp. These mysteries encourage curiosity, reflection, and awe. In many ways, the mystery of consciousness mirrors the mystery of the universe. Just as space stretches beyond the reach of telescopes, awareness stretches beyond the reach of definitions. Both invite exploration. Both inspire questions that lead to greater understanding, even when clear answers remain out of sight. This mystery also enriches life. It gives depth to experience, significance to emotion, and beauty to presence. Without the unknown, consciousness would be mechanical. With the unknown, it becomes expansive and alive. As we stand at the edge of what is known, the future of consciousness beckons. Technology, science, and culture are evolving. New forms of intelligence are emerging. Tools that extend the mind are being built. Human consciousness may be entering a new phase, shaped by discoveries and inventions that will redefine what it means to be aware. Before we step into that future, allow your breath to settle softly. Feel the quiet that accompanies the unknown. We now explore the future of consciousness, the horizon toward which humanity is moving. The future of consciousness. Humanity now stands at a threshold. For the first time in history, consciousness is not only being explored through the philosophy and introspection, but through technology, neuroscience, and artificial intelligence. The tools we are developing have the potential to reshape how we understand the mind, how we extend it, and how we experience being a self. The future of consciousness is not a distant idea. It is unfolding now in laboratories, in digital systems, and in the quiet evolution of human thought. Artificial intelligence raises one of the most profound questions of our time. Can a machine ever become conscious? Can information processing alone give rise to subjective experience? Some argue that if a system becomes complex enough, with networks that integrate information in ways similar to the brain, consciousness might emerge. Others believe that subjective awareness requires biological processes, or that it is tied to the unique evolutionary history of living beings. No one knows the answer yet, but the question itself expands our understanding of what consciousness might be. It forces us to examine the essence of awareness, to distinguish between intelligence and experience, to explore whether consciousness arises from structure, function, or something deeper. Take a gentle breath here. As you breathe, imagine how different consciousness might look in other forms, perhaps in machines, or in augmented minds, or in forms of intelligence not yet imagined. Brain-computer interfaces are another horizon. Scientists are beginning to develop technologies that allow direct communication between the brain and external systems. These tools may one day help individuals regain movement, restore senses, or access digital information through thought alone. Over time, such interfaces could extend human cognition, blending biological and artificial systems. The mind may become more fluid, more connected, more capable of navigating complex environments. This raises profound questions. If part of your memory lives outside your brain, is it still you? If your thoughts interact with digital networks, does your consciousness expand? If your sense of identity becomes distributed across biological and technological systems, what does the self become? Human consciousness is also evolving through culture and connection. The digital world allows minds to communicate across vast distances instantly. Ideas spread rapidly. Communities form around shared experiences, not geography. This global connection influences how individuals see themselves, how they understand belonging, and how they construct identity. Consciousness becomes more interwoven, shaped by a collective landscape of information and emotion. At the same time, the pace of modern life challenges the capacity of the mind. Constant stimulation competes for attention. Information overload can fragment awareness. The future of consciousness may therefore depend not only on expansion, but on grounding. Skills like presence, deep attention, emotional regulation, and self-awareness may become essential for navigating a rapidly accelerating world. Emerging science also explores altered states induced through technology. Neurostimulation, virtual reality, and new forms of sensory experience open possibilities for shifting consciousness in controlled ways. These tools may eventually help people explore inner worlds with clarity, process emotions, or cultivate states of calm and connection. There is also a growing interest in the integration of ancient wisdom with modern science. Practices like meditation, breathwork, and contemplative reflection are being studied with increasing rigor. These practices reveal that consciousness has depths and capabilities often overlooked in ordinary life. The future may bring a synthesis where technology enhances the mind, while contemplative traditions teach how to use these tools wisely. You may take another soft breath here. Notice how the future of consciousness does not lie only in machines or technology. It lies in how deeply we understand our own minds, how gently we cultivate awareness, how wisely we integrate new possibilities into the fabric of human life. The future invites awe. It suggests that consciousness may expand, diversify, or transform. It hints at forms of identity, connection, and experience that we can barely imagine. Yet through all this possibility, one truth remains constant. The core of consciousness is presence, the simple awareness of being. No matter how the mind evolves, this core remains the foundation of experience. From this horizon of possibility, we return now to reflection. The journey through consciousness has taken us across evolution, neuroscience, philosophy, and the inner landscape of the self. Before we close, allow your breath to deepen gently. We step now into the final reflections of this exploration. Closing reflections. Consciousness is the quiet miracle at the center of every moment. It is the light that reveals the world, the warmth that holds emotion, and the depth through which meaning unfolds. Throughout this journey, we have explored the origins of awareness, the architecture of the self, the mystery of subjective experience, and the evolving future of the mind. Yet even after all these paths and perspectives, consciousness remains more profound than any single explanation. Take a slow breath here and notice the simple fact of being aware. This awareness is not something you do. It is something you are. It has been with you since your earliest memory and long before that. It is present in every moment of your life, whether you pay attention to it or not. It is the background and the foreground, the silent witness to everything you experience. When early humans first looked inward, they encountered this same presence. When philosophers contemplated the nature of the soul or the mind, they grappled with this same mystery. When neuroscientists examine the brain, they study the structures through which this awareness shines. When contemplative traditions speak of presence, stillness, or insight, they invite people back to the same inner space that you can feel right now. Consciousness connects you not only to your own life, but to the entire human story. Every person who has ever lived has moved through this same field of awareness, shaped by memories, emotions, relationships, and mysteries. Every joy, every fear, every moment of wonder, every quiet breath has unfolded within the same unbroken space of consciousness. It is a shared human inheritance, one that binds us across time and culture. As you listen, you might allow your breath to become soft and steady. Feel the gentle expansion of the chest, the release of the shoulders, the quiet settling of the body. These simple sensations remind you that consciousness is embodied. It is not separate from the rhythms of life. It flows with each breath, each heartbeat, each moment of presence. Understanding consciousness can bring clarity. It can soften the grip of the ego, illuminate hidden patterns of mind, and reveal the constructed nature of the self. It can deepen empathy, expand curiosity, and encourage humility. It can also bring grounding. In a world that moves quickly, awareness offers a place of stillness. In moments of uncertainty, awareness provides stability. In times of complexity, it offers simplicity. There is a quiet wisdom in recognizing that consciousness does not need to be solved to be appreciated. The mystery is not a failure of understanding. It is a reminder of the depth of existence. It invites wonder and reflection. It encourages you to explore not only the world around you, but the world within. Take one more gentle breath. Let it flow in and out without effort. Notice the calm that arises when you return to the simple act of being present. This calm is not something added to consciousness. It is something revealed when distractions settle. As this exploration comes to a close, the journey does not end. Consciousness continues moment by moment, shaping your experience of life. You carry with you the ability to observe your thoughts, to soften your attention, to feel the body, and to rest in awareness. These capacities can guide you through the noise of the world and bring you back, again and again, to a sense of inner steadiness. The mystery of consciousness remains, but so does its beauty, so does its depth, so does its quiet presence. And in that presence, you discover something both ancient and ever new, the simple wonder of being alive.